What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? 49 coming at you with another community shoutcast for Huskar Dota2 Bash. We're loading into game number 1 of the best of 3 series between the newly formed Trident Esports up against Insurgent Esports. Trident Esports led by their captain KQT, Theorada, while Insurgent led by Viserion. Will be the first time I've actually casted Trident Esports, a reasonably new team with the entire roster. Usually the past few games cast with them tends to be 4+1. They have been missing, I think it was Gatekeeper the last time I was casting with them. First ban, Faces Void coming up from Insurgent Esports. Faces Void no longer really considered to be a first ban worthy, especially due to this significant amount of nerfs it's received. I believe he's been nerfed every single patch since he was buffed in 8.1, so it has been receiving the short end of the stick as far as balance is concerned. Nowadays, because of the fact that Chronosphere no longer disables passives, teams have started to play around the Void by picking up heroes such as the Phantom Assassin, since you can sit there with your Blur and Laugh. Centaur War already being banned out by Insurgent. Centaur, much more standard first tier ban, just due to the fact that he provides you a lot of utility due to the Stampede ability, provides you massive amount of initiation as well as counter initiation, really can mess up heroes like Trident 2 who are dependent on the enemy's positioning. Trident, the first pick coming out from them. Interesting to note, they banned out the Centaur, so that because they knew they had first pick, it meant that they could give away the Titan with good respect ban, and Voka coming out from Trident Esports, who've also opted to ban out the Doombringer. So the rationale behind these teams banning out the Faces Void and Doombringer, both these heroes no longer considered first tier, could partially be due to the fact that they want to open up the draft, let some more of these tier 1 heroes pass through, while the tier 2 heroes are banned instead. It's one of the only reasons why you'd want to ban these heroes in the first banning stage as opposed to the second, either as a spec ban or to open up the draft. And Trident Esports, KQT, really deliberating on the first and second pick, dipping into the reserve time. KQT, of course, extensive amount of experience. I believe he played competitive heroes in New Earth alongside Ninja Boogie as well as Eternal Envy. And then now he's moved on to Dota2. I think he played for SYF Gaming, which was considered one of the top Australian teams. So probably one of the most experienced players on their team, one of the most experienced players in the Australian competitive scene in general. Opening with the Ember Spirit as well as Skywrath Mage. Both these heroes have been slightly nerfed throughout successive patches just due to their high rate of efficiency, Skywrath Mage in particular, being nerfed pretty much to the ground now due to the fact that his agility growth has been nerfed by about 6 points at all levels. It means that he's going to be sticking at around 0 armor until level 8. Quite a significant nerf, unless he of course he picks up Tranquil Boots, which tend to be the preferred boots of choice pickup on him. It means that he's absolute food for heroes like the Tidehunter. If he's at the closer distance, Gush of course removes movement speed as well as reducing armor and smashes physical damage. So Skywrath Mage, a lot of teams decide to counter-tech Skywrath by experimenting with heroes such as the Venge, who's going to be consistently powerful at all stages of the game, has the abilities to be able to reduce armor, and is a hell of a lot tankier. So Venge, always a very solid pickup. She's currently trending as one of the most picked or banned support heroes in the current meta, but she does give you that get out jail free card for your carry. If they get jumped on by, say, a Bat Rider, always a vengeful spot to pull them out. She's always relevant at every stage of the game, much like the Skywrath Mage, but unlike the Skywrath, isn't nowhere near as squishy. Of course, where the Skywrath Mage excels is the fact that he's able to provide a massive amount of team impact with or without items. He can set up ganks on his own due to the 1600 range concussive shot, and of course he's able to output the same amount of damage a core hero can, so a very powerful hero in that support role, especially if you choose another hero to synergize well with them. Venge synergizes well with the Skywrath Mage because they both complement each other's weaknesses. Venge's biggest weakness, of course, being the fact that as a slow hero with a low range stun, very difficult for her to actually close the distance, get in range to throw the stun out in the first place. So Skywrath Mage is set up for the Venge, opening the door for her like a gentleman for her to stun people in the face. Jakira ban now coming in the second banning stage from Insurgent Esports. Very powerful offlane hero. Has been banned just due to the sheer amount of efficiency that hero provides in the offlane. Almost impossible to drive him out, as he's one of the tankiest intelligence heroes in the game due to his high strength growth as well as a high starting strength. Also very difficult to bully up in terms of trading right clicks against him, since you could always trade more effectively with the Liquid Fire Dual Burst ban. And he does have the capacity to knock down your towers. Team with the Jakiro can often take every tier 1 and every tier 2 in the first 20 minutes. Even in the post-Death Bolt era, makes it very difficult for teams that tend to draft a greedy and 1 position hero to recover. Also can create a lot of space for heroes like the Ember Spirit, do his thing, farm safely in the background. Ember can be run in that 1 position role. He is run occasionally in the mid lane, although it is a bit of a coin toss when you run Ember Spirit in the mid lane, since teams have been experimenting with heroes such as a Lycanthrope to counter him in lane, just for providing that massive burst of physical damage. Trident Esports, uncharacteristically actually banning out the Phantom Assassin. This is a hero that Mule as well as Venadamon play to perfection. Mule, I believe, is currently the 19th highest ranked Phantom Assassin player in Dota buff, so out of the God knows how many players that play him. Definitely one of the better ones. Terrorblade now also being banned. Terrorblade's actually being significantly buffed in 8.3 due to the fact that Diffusal Blade, no longer being a unique attack modifier, is actually the most cost-efficient agi item that you could get. Diffusal Blade level 2. And so a lot of high-level Terrorblade players, such as I believe it's Matrice, and Virus, who are the ones that in the 6k bracket that tend to popularize Hero Blade builds. They've been starting to go for the Fusel Blade as their first big item in lieu of the Yasha or after the Yasha, just due to the high amount of efficiency it provides. Puck being picked up by Trident, most likely going to be a mid lane hero, as Ember Spirit. The disadvantage of putting Ember mid is a large number of mid heroes that will completely dominate in the lane. Queen of Pain's actually been experimented as a potential counter due to the fact that Sonic Wave now penetrates a Mage community. Now will affect spell immune targets, as well as the fact that with that Shadow Strike and the excellent base damage, very easy for her to bully Ember Spirit out of lane. Sand King pickup coming up from Insurgent Esports. The nice thing about this is you do have a 4-position hero that can function as a 3 and function as your primary initiator at time to get shut down. The drawback, of course, is it's extremely greedy. Sand King is going to be spending the first 10 minutes of the game stacking creeps in the jungle and listening to Darude. Very difficult for Sand King to recover if he's off to a poor start. Since you're putting all the emphasis on support items and supporting on the Venge, and Venge without any items, well, it's not really the end of the world. It means that an aggressive support duo coming up from Trident can really ruin their day. Since Sand King doesn't really want to be fighting early on, he's going to be starting with boots first, ideally, meaning that Venge has to pick up every single support item. Often teams are forced to go without sentries, so the offlane safety ward from the enemy team isn't going to be de-warded until much later on in the game. Or if Venge chooses to start with sentries, as well as Observer Ward and the Courier, she's not going to have much regen items or anything really to keep her in lane, so it makes her a walking target. One of the ways teams like to counteract the greed of the Sand King is by playing incredibly aggressively, since the reason why you tend to play greedy with Sand King is the fact that you need at least level 3 Burst Rate before it really becomes worthwhile. Starting with boots first on Sand King alleviates his biggest weakness, which is the low range on Burst Strike at the early levels. And so if you are successful with the early rotations, you can recover quite nicely, and it does put your team in a very good position. Since you've got the superior initiation of the Sand King with the Blink Dagger, whose Burst Strike is instantaneous, so you can't really disjoint that. Follow up with the Titan too. It looks like we've got a Drow Ranger pickup coming up from Trident, so we could actually be seeing what looks like to be an offlane puck. Potentially a mid lane or a safe lane Drow. Both Drow and Ember Spirit, they do have the viability in going in solo 1v1 matchup and winning that matchup. Drow because she hits like an absolute truck and has that free orb to just poke and prod you. And Ember Spirit just due to the fact that with that Flame Guard he's able to push out the creep wave to guarantee room control. One of the things that you have to note with 8-3 is the fact that because the 0-second bounty route now provides 100 experience and gold, a lot of very greedy offlaners have become much more viable, such as Puck, due to the fact that if you're able to secure that bounty rune for your offlane, they start with a half a level advantage. And so that means that Puck will be able to pick up level 2. He was guaranteed to pick up level 2 unless he's actually completely zoned out of the EXP range. Viper pickup now coming up from Insurgent Esports. I'm loving the Viper pickup coming up from them just due to the fact that Viper hard counters the Ember Spirit in the mid lane, so it's going to force Drow Ranger to go mid unless if Ember's going to play incredibly passively. A Viper actually beats all 3 of these heroes. Drow Ranger v Viper is the only one that could actually go either way, just because of the fact that once Drow picks up level 6, she's just going to play incredibly passively until then, and once she picks up 6, she can actually stand toe-to-toe ground against Viper. Otherwise, Puck and Ember both get destroyed by the Viper in the mid lane, owing to the fact that Viper with another Toxin, he's going to outlast hit you, with the Poison Orb he's getting 3 shots in, and you can't really man-find him since with Corrosive Skin as well as his high starting HP pool, especially since Viper tends to go for mech as his first big item, very difficult for you to deal with. Viper has been kind of tapering off in terms of popularity ever since the shift away from the Deathball metas due to the fact that Viper's a hero that excels at constantly grouping up and fighting, knocking down towers, with the fact that every time you take a tier 1, you give the enemy team a free fortification, as well as the fact that tier 2s are now worth half the amount of gold. No longer worthwhile for your team to go for this all-out Deathball push strat where you group as 5 and constantly fight, as well as the fact that mech now costs 225 mana, so it decreases the efficiency of Viper's first big item, just because in terms of cost effectiveness is always going to be the superior pickup on Viper over the alternatives, which is the Hooded Defiance or potentially the Vanguard. And of course, Viper's other biggest weakness is the fact that his biggest strength is the fact that he forces the enemy team to react to him. But because you've got Ember and Drow Ranger, Viper's going to taper off after about the 35 to 40 minute mark, and once he tapers off, he's going to be fairly ineffective. So Insurgent, the momentum is on them for them to try to push out, take a lot of towers, secure objectives early on, pressure Trident Esports, keep them down, and try to get a set of racks before the 40-minute mark. They're not able to breach high ground in that 40-minute window. Trident, they're going to do what they do best, which is to go greed, go all out, just rely on the superior farming efficiency, pick up farm on their multiple core heroes. I mean, of the 4 heroes, the only hero that isn't a core is Skywrath, and Skywrath can translate to a core if he does pick up enough farm. So Skywrath and a Rubick, very unconventional support duo. The nice thing about it is Rubick provides the lockdown, Skywrath provides the damage. But the drawback of this is that Rubick's in completely defensive support, and Skywrath Mage is incredibly fragile, so if you turn and stand your ground, it looks like they're going to be going for the Huskar pickup. So we're going to be seeing Viper in the mid lane, Huskar tri-lane with the Venge as well as the Sand King, and Trident in the off lane. What it looks like from the boys, and Trident looks like we are going to be seeing an Ember Spirit in the mid lane, as Jellysickle tends to be their mid lane, Venado going to be their one. So very interesting pickup coming up from them. Insurgent Esports, interesting thing to note as well. They did ban out the Visage, owing to the fact that Visage and the Drow Ranger, absolutely ridiculous synergy, since you could provide that marksmanship aura. You could activate it to provide it to the Familiars. The Familiars get 3 attacks a second, so you use them to knock down towers. You can introduce the boys from Insurgent Esports. We've got Viserion, their captain, going to be the Huskar, most likely going to be the 1. Toolbelt going to be the 2 as the mid lane Viper. Nathan Rapp going to be the 4 as the Sand King. Actually opted to go for support items instead of going for boots first. So the drawback of this build is the fact that it means it's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for Sand King to be able to land a stun without a smoke rotation coming in, since the only reliable way for both these heroes to close the distance is if you can smoke gank in through a tree line coming from behind, catch them from another angle when they're not expecting it, and then once you land that magic missile or the bar strike, if you're really able to close that distance quickly, you can follow through and you should have enough lockdown to bring them down. Quick pause coming out. We've got Rose as the offlane Tidehunter. Tidehunter, of course, stunning of boots. No safety wall being given to him. I'm assuming they're going to hand one over to him fairly soon. And we've got Power of Friendship, going to be the Vengeful Spirit over the boys in Trident. Mule going to be the offlane Puck. Puck not really the greatest offlane hero, since he doesn't really get as much benefit from it as a lot of other heroes. Since Puck, much like the Centaur Warrior, is an incredibly greedy offlaner, but unlike the Centaur, who has the global presence of the Stampede, as well as the solo killing power of just being able to walk up and execute someone with the Hoof Stomp and Double Edge, Puck doesn't really have that. Also much easier to shut down, and doesn't have the ability to really recover, which the Centaur Warrior does have. The nice thing about Puck is if he does get off to a good start, he provides you that area control that you can use to try to control the rest of the team. We've got a very greedy pop board coming up from Insurgent Esports. The reason, and this is immediately being pinged out by the boys in Trident, the reason why you don't want to go for this ward is it provides vision of both Rune as well as acting as a safety ward. Tends to be too greedy. Most boards will be placing the sentry ward around this region, since this tends to be the most common area to place a safety ward, so it's why players will often place unconventional ones either there, or if you're playing aggressively, in the place of ward there so you can spot in support rotations. Otherwise, you could even go for even really crazy ones such as there, so that gives you vision of both these camps. Or even there, the drawback is it can potentially block that hard camp, so you could actually place it slightly further there to make sure it doesn't get dewarded. It's the number 1 objective of the safety ward, is that it doesn't get dewarded. The mid lane matchup, Jellysickle, playing fairly aggressively early on, actually leading in terms of CS. This shouldn't be happening as Toolbelt opted to go for Nethertox in the 1 instead of the poison attack, so it means he can't actually go for right clicks against Ember, but considering he's not actually even outlast hitting him, despite the base damage difference, a bit of a questionable pickup. You tend to go for Poison Orb at 1 just so you can actually all harass out the Ember, so if he's going in for last hits, he's going to be losing a good chunk of his life, since Ember, 1 armor hurts like hell. Once you pick up level 2, that's when you want to go for Nether Toxin, so it seems like a fairly minor difference, but it means that Jellysickle's picked up level 2, he's actually 4 for 3, so he's got a phenomenal amount of farm. This is a matchup that's actually heavily favors the Viper. It's an 80 to 20 matchup for the odds of the Ember Spirit doing well. Now he's picked up the Poison Orb. This is what he should have been doing from the start, so that 1 Poison Orb takes about 60 points of life. Considering he's been sitting there in melee range, constantly hitting those creeps, he should have been able to do that from the start, really apply pressure to him. Mule, pretty good creep block from the look of it. Looks like he actually has control creep, equilibrium. This is about the perfect area you want the creep wave to be. If it gets any further, you want to make sure that it's not past this point, since once the tower starts heading creeps, it's going to push the next wave forward to about there, so that puts you in danger. So you always want to make sure about this region, so you always want to make sure that the creep wave is just outside of tower range. Magic Missile flies on Mule. Mule does not stand his ground. Could actually look to go for a kill attempt with Power of Friendship, as Power of Friendship actually completely out of mana, so that's 2 Magic Missiles. Looks like Mule might have potentially disjointed the first one. Marksman Aura has already been skilled, so it does provide him that extra burst of bonus damage to really be able to right-click people down. Over in the offlane, Rose, having a very difficult start, especially with the safety ward being dewarded. Gatekeeper, doing his thing as that 4 position, making sure he can score that bounty rune. Actually forgot to introduce the players from Trident. Gatekeeper, he's going to be there 4. Going in for a gank attack on Rose. Going to be eating an Arcane Orb coming from KQT, the captain, and the 5. This actually could be First Blood, as Rose, taking a fair amount of damage. That last Arcane Orb should be enough. Trident Esports, first he doesn't get that safety ward, then he gets torn apart, and while that happens, Mule, able to Ethereal Jaunt under there. So with that, things are off to a bit of a dicey start for the boys in Trident Esports. Rose, I mean, the nice thing about the Trident is the fact that he can actually recover by stacking and clearing out Ancients, which is something that very few offlane heroes can do. It's the reason why you see heroes like Centaur Warren are picked up fairly often, since while Centaur is a very greedy offlane and has a difficult time ensuring lane dominance, he does have that fallback mechanic of being able to go into the jungle once he picks up Tranquil Boots and being able to clear out creeps there. Titan did to a much greater extent, can do that by stacking clearing out Ancients. So in the mid lane, Toolbelt now playing a bit more aggressively. He's opted to go for 2 points in that Dota2. This is the optimal build for Viper to go when you're playing against a hero like the Ember. Jelly Sickle is actually going to be very careful. Toolbelt should have actually just stood his ground there. As right-clicked him down, he also opted to go for a bottle. Bit of an unconventional pickup on a Viper. One of the reasons why you don't see Viper picked up so often now is the fact that he's actually very bottle inefficient, since he doesn't get too much benefit from a bottle. Since there's only big expenditure in mana is going to be that in mech, although one of the things that players have been experimenting with to compensate for the fact that mech now costs 225 mana is going for that bottle. It looks like Nathan Raff actually taking a huge amount of damage. Meal just standing his ground, right-clicking people down, relying on the extra base damage he's receiving from that marksman aura, as well as the fact that Parky actually does hit fairly hard. He's got a great animation while I say that. Rose lifted up into the air, going to be thrown back into the waiting arms of KQT. He wants to go for the Anchor Smash, now lands it, but he's landing it on the Skywrath Mage. He doesn't really give too much of a damn. Venado just doing his thing, smacking creeps, and they actually could have gone for a kill attempt. Now one more right click. Not going to be enough, never mind it is, and KQT is able to find it. Tide actually hesitated there. One of the things you can do is you could actually have shift click and eat your way through that tree line, so that way you actually don't hesitate. And meanwhile, Nathan Rav actually gets killed by a creep. So things are off to a great start for the boys in Trident Esports. Well, Insurgent off to a pretty dicey start. Viserion, very interesting, they went for the Huskar, since the Drow Render actually does very well against Huskar. It seems like Huskar will do well against Drow, since he can just jump her and tear her down. But considering the fact that Huskar, he does fall apart to physical damage. You've got both the Ember and the Drow Ranger, and you're never going to be able to life break the Ember. Ember can destroy it either with the Remnant or with the Slate of Fist. So it means if you're jumping the Drow, if you're throwing everything you have against her, the Jelly Sickle's going to cut you a new one. And because Viserion's only going to be effective for about the first 40 minutes, unless he gets some seemly farm, very difficult for Insurgent Esports to really capitalize off the advantage of the Huskar, which is his incredible aggressive capability, as well as the ability for him to just be able to jump on the support to tear them apart. One of the biggest weaknesses of Huskar that keeps him from being a competitively viable hero is the fact that Blade Mail hard counters him. No other hero in the game counters themselves the same way that Huskar does, since Blade Mail of course returns pure damage. And so the supports can even contemplate, they'll most likely be going for the Yule Scepter, but if it does go late, you can contemplate picking up Blade Mail so that when he jumps you with the life break starts hitting you, pop the Blade Mail. It doesn't matter if you die, you're most likely going to drop Huskar to low enough HP that your teammate should be able to finish him, especially since in these competitive level games, teams just tend to coordinate their fire and make sure that you bring Huskar down. Viserion now gets ganked with the concussive shot as well as the Arcane Bolt. Arcane Bolt not really going to be doing too much, but one more right click should be enough. And Mule finds an easy kill. A little bit of help coming in from KQT. This is something that a lot of high-level teams like to do, is actually gank the offlane, where they usually least expect a gank attempt to be happening. Power of Friendship throws out a magic missile on KQT, so support v support. As Vengeful Spirit tries to go in against a former lover, not going to be doing too crash hot though. While that happens, looks like Gatekeeper actually found a kill on Rose. So Rose, one of the best offlane heroes in the game, but Titans are actually off to a very difficult start. He even opted to go for 2 points in the Kraken Shell to maximize the chances of survival. Not really working out too well for him. I believe he has been stacking up those camps, so he's got at least one stack going so far. But compare offlane to offlane, the greedy Puck offlane that should have actually been having a very difficult start, performing quite well because you've got the marksman aura and synergy between them to make sure that Puck can trade right clicks very effectively, and because you've got the Sand King who's constantly in the jungle stacking, clearing out camps, it means that Venge is going to be left alone against Puck. And so the greed of the Puck is only really justified because you know that's a 2.5 lane, a 2.5 lane as opposed to a tri lane. Since Sand King's going to be spending the majority of the time, especially since he didn't go boots first, sitting in the jungle, listening to some Darude. Jelly Sickle in the mid lane matchup does have Flame Remnant. It actually stands his ground against Toolbelt. I don't think he should be trying to man fight him there, since Viper excels against that man fight, especially with that Flame Guard wearing off. Realizes this drops a Remnant preemptively. It's one of the biggest weaknesses of the Ember Spirit against the Viper, is if Viper ults you if you don't have a Fire Remnant. If you drop a Fire Remnant, then it's going to be moving at about 100 movement speed. Means that he's probably going to be able to kill you before you get Remnant out, so you always have to preemptively place a Remnant when you're playing against a Viper, or in general if you think you're going to be ganked. KQT spots out Nathan Rav can eat that concussive shot, doesn't have mana for that Sandstorm, could actually be taking a death there, as KQT just soloing him down, Dreamcall being used to ensure that kill, and Insurgent Esports being torn apart. Bit of a difficult start for them, especially since they waited half an hour for this game to go live. Venado looks like he's actually going for the max Frost Arrow build, holding on to his 4th skill point. As a 7th skill point, there we go. So he is maxing out that Frost Arrow. The difference between level 3 and level 4 Frost Arrow is absolutely huge. That 60% snare on demand is absolutely massive, especially since Drow Ranger hits like an absolute monster truck. Arcane Bolt actually not going to be enough. They are able to find that first kill. Nathan Rav looks like he was able to secure that kill with the Burrow Strike. So Mule not going to be too happy with that, but that being said, he is off to a fantastic start as far as the offlane is concerned. Rose, level 4.5, nowhere near level 6, nowhere near that blink dagger. There's also a ward block being used. Actually very surprised that opted to place one there, since placing the Observer Ward there will give you vision of when he's going for the Ancient Stack. So that can actually pay out to be a lot more effective, because you could kill the Tide and take a stack afterwards. Viserion could actually look to jump on Mule, but Mule's got that phase shift, so he doesn't want to risk it. And Viserion going for a fairly conventional build. Actually, you nowadays with the rework to Berserker's Blood, you actually choose to max out Burning Spins before Berserker's Blood. Power of Friendship, one more right click, and Gatekeeper just zaps him down. Toolbelt wants to go in, but this is the weakness of Viper. He's incredibly slow. He's a siege engine that you have to deploy, and when you're against a hero like a Drow that slows you even further, you get torn to pieces. Venado going to be finding himself an easy kill. Most likely going to be going for the Yasha as his first big pickup, or could be going for the much more aggressive competitive build, which is Mask and Madness into Blink Dagger. Since Drow Ranger, you don't necessarily have to build a damage item early on, much like Clinks. You hit your damage peak so much earlier than most carries that you can actually afford to, you actually want to go for utility items instead, such as a BKB, such as a Blink Dagger, to ensure that you can get more bang for your buck, and you're going to get torn down by Viserion. But the creep's actually might be to do it. One more right click and that range creep is able to ensure that kill a Mule. And you're trading a 3-4-1, more than happy to go for that. Power of Friendship. Hanging by Rose, so with the Power of Friendship, Tide will finally pick up level 6. He's actually looking to optimize Kraken Shell over the Anchor Smash. There's a bit of a mistake, and Gatekeeper is going to punish him for it, lifts him up to the air. The Ancients are also going in for the fun as well. Rose, if he had a Ravage, could have actually looked to try and turn things around. Power of Friendship should be taking a death there. Venado going to be showing no mercy. And with that, Gatekeeper finds 2. He's going to throw his life away. There's Tool Belt. One right click should be enough. He could have actually chosen to ult KQT as well. Choosing to throw in right clicks instead might ensure KQT's survival. Never mind, Tao's going to finish him off. And Nathan Red being gusted back. Good recognition coming up from Nanamo, because he did opt to go for that cheeky point and gust just right then at 8 to ensure that that exact situation wouldn't happen. Sand King, usually you see about an 8 to 11 minute Blink Dagger as the average timing. If you do it quickly, if you rush it and don't spend any time helping your teammates, 8 to 9 minutes is usually on par, because he's been spending a fair amount of time also trying to help out his team. Most likely going to be finding it at around the 14-ish minute mark, just due to the fact that he has been taking a few deaths. Does catch out Mule, picks up the bunny run in front of him. So not only does he stun him, he also takes his bunny. Toolbelt gusted to the tree line, actually stuck, trying to TP out there, but Gatekeeper should be able to lift him up in the air. He actually catches him with his own Viper Strike. This is the other weakness of Viper against a Rubick, because Rubick, he's only got one ability, and with that takes another death. Venado just cuts him down. Actually 2.6k gold on him. Venado could even choose, if he chooses to go for the Blink Dagger, it tends to be the most optimal pickup, since Drow Ranger entirely built around positioning, and since Blink Dagger lets you reposition yourself at whim. Also helps you escape gank attempts, since if you've got quick enough fingers when you see Tide blink, trying to go for the Ravage, you can actually blink yourself out. Since I believe both teams are playing in the Australian server and out from Australia, so they're about 50-ish ping, definitely reasonable. Power of Friendship and Viserion, trying to smack down that tier 1 in that mid lane. Power of Friendship actually looking to optimize the Howler Terror. This is the competitive build, just because you're going to get more damage from it. Magic Missile doesn't really scale too well. You actually see Vengeful server players opt for a point in Vengeance or at level 4, and keep Magic Missile at 1 if they are playing from behind. Just because it's going to give you a lot more value. Earlier points in Magic Missile when you're playing from behind, not really going to be too worthwhile, whereas the Vengeance Aura, even if you die, you're at least providing that malice to the enemy team. They do lose that tier 2 in exchange for a tier 1 in that mid lane. Tier 2 for tier 1. Nathan Rev actually going for an Epicenter, but unfortunately, the entire team are trying to do disengage. He wastes the Epicenter, now called an Ancient Seal, as well as the Mystic Flare. He eats a bit of an unfortunate death there. Power of Friendship comes in from the side. Cavalry has arrived, but Viserion, at about half HP, really doesn't want to engage against the blinking Drow Ranger, as well as the Ember Spirit. And looks like they do catch out Rose. Rose still doesn't have his Ravage, and Epicenter was stolen by Gatekeeper. Toolbelt keeping himself alive, and now Searing Chains can use Jelly Sleep to reposition himself with that Remnant. Now the Dream Call's down. Toolbelt then they lifted up in the hand, smacked down. Another one blinking in melee range, saying, I don't even need marksmanship for this. Finds himself an easy kill, and Trident just walking all over the boys from Insurgent. Very aggressive ward being placed, gives you vision of when supports are TPing to defend that tier 2, so this is a ward you place if you want a group up to take their tier 2 mid, but since they haven't even taken the tier 1, a little bit preemptive, I suppose. When you're this far ahead, you might as well. Also note they have ward blocked off the Ancients, and place a very aggressive ward there, effectively cuts out this entire side of the map. So as far as farming is concerned, the only lane they could safely farm is going to be the top lane. Since the mid lane not really going to be too safe. Once you lose the tier 2, you have the potential shenanigans from them to come around from the side, especially with the Blink Dagger. The tier 1 is not going to be around for too much longer. Jelly Sickle very close towards that Drums of Endurance. We'll be going to face Drum into the Battle Theory. If we'll have a look at gold difference, about 6k. So Trident Esports off to a great start experience as well. Only about 4.5, so definitely not the end of the world for the boys Insurgent. They can recover from this. The gold lead is much more important since we are only 13 minutes into the game. Experience, not too far behind. If they're able to find a couple of retaliatory kills and trade, especially since the amount of spree gold and KQT, should be fairly effective for them to be able to pull themselves back into the game. KQT going for the fairly standard Skywrath build, so he's saying even though they've got 1 armor, not really giving a damn, still choosing to go for Arcane Boots. A lot of Skywrath Mage players now tend to go for Tranquils, just because it gives you more mobility, which Skywrath could always need, as well as the armor, which is the critical factor, since when you're sticking in about 1 armor at level 8, not exactly going to be looking to crash off, but considering he's actually out-leveling Rose by 2 points. Viserion, caught in Slater Viserion Chain combination now, caught with the Concussive Shot as well as the Arcane Bolt. Not really going to be too handy though. He doesn't still have his Unlimited Digging and wants to go for it. Wants to go for the Life Break, goes to Jelly Sickle. Unfortunately, Jelly Sickle not able to destroy it in time. Rose, silence with the Ancient Seal as well as the Dream Coil and the Winning Grip from the look of Jelly Sickle going to be taking a death. Tool Belt should be the clean up Gatekeeper. Venado, blink himself out, not going to stand his ground. Unfortunately, no sentries available. They are able to bring down Mule, so this is exactly what they needed. The drawback of being ahead in the 8-2 to 8-3 era is the fact that you do feed so much gold and more importantly so much experience when you die. So this trade, even though they lost 2 for 3, very favourable for them. Toolbelt should be taking a death air swap being used with Power of Friendship. Actually swaps himself into the creep line, so he throws his own life away and then kills his carry. Not exactly what he was looking for. Was not prepared for that one. Also wasn't prepared for Dinner and Jelly Sickle. Zips himself back into the fray. This is the advantage of Ember when you move into the ultra late game, much like Weaver, due to the fact that you have an ability to globally reposition yourself. If you die, you've got an incredibly high buyback efficiency. To Nature's Prophet as well. Very powerful hero in the ultra late game. So the ultra late game, of course, is the point where both enemy carriers are 6 slotted, so you can no longer buy items, so then it's more about buyback efficiency. So that's why Necrophos has been very powerful and very popular here in the competitive scene. As well, he is actually very weak in the late game, unless he's incredibly fast. He is ridiculously powerful in the ultra late game, just being a disabled buyback. Toolbelt, Slater Fist as well, Searing Chains being used. But he's standing his ground against Jelly Sickle. Jelly Sickle forces Zip on now. The Epicenter being used, going to be with the Rose. No Ravager in sight. Epicenter finally being used. KQT could be taking a death. Gatekeeper being swapped back in. Absolute pandemonium happening. Power of Friendship. Keep yourself alive. The mech from Toolbelt. Searing finds himself 2. Might be to find himself 3. Jelly Sickle. No more mana to be the Remnant out. Blink coming in from Nathan Rev, and Nathan doesn't have enough for that Burrow Strike. Jelly Sickle just fleeing for his life while he's on fire. Gus comes through, catches out Toolbelt. Venado, he's got that Blink Deck available. Blinks himself out. Dream Coil now being used. It does save their life. Mule. Ethereal joining away to safety. And Venado just finds 1, should be to find 2. Jelly Sickle comes for 1 more right click. Creep actually might be the kill. The Creep does kill him. And unfortunately, Nathan Rev trying to burn down Jelly Sickle does break his flame gun. If he had enough mana for a Burrow Strike, would be another kill. A Mule! Very rare miss from him. Didn't anticipate the blink coming up from Nathan Rev, so perfect timing coming in from him. And with that trade, Insurgency, they actually break completely even with that. They actually come out ahead as far as gold is concerned, just due to the fact that Venado fed so much gold when he did take that death. So this is, of course, the comeback mechanic of 8-2 into 8-3. So we have a look at experience. Now, has been stabilized at about 5k. We look at gold, about 9k-ish. As far as Insurgent are concerned, they still can recover from this, since they do have that Blink Dagger on the Sand King. So this is the nice thing about having that greedy 4. While it does affect your early game and your other support, if your offlaner has a terrible time, it guarantees you having some kind of Blink initiation. He's actually got more net worth than Rose is actually the lowest. He's even lower than Power of Friendship, so you've got the best offlaner in the game, who has built-in recovery mechanics after a bit of a terrible start. Venado now going for the Helm of Dominator as well as the Yasha. Yasha very cost-effective item as Agi here, going for a kill attack with Power of Friendship, should be able to find it. Swap actually comes in, he swaps in Nathan and instantly gets silenced. And now he's going to throw his own life away as well as he put himself way too far out of position. Jelly Sickle just commits that with that Fire Remnant and leap him across the sky as Viserion. He's that magic missile though, going to be lifting the air and Venado stands his ground. Rose going to be taking another death, so this is what I'm talking about with Drow Ranger actually countering Huskar. Because even though Huskar is able to break the marksmanship, Drow Ranger should have enough damage to actually just kill Huskar before Huskar reaches that critical point. Toolbelt, keep yourself alive, now does it, that mech actually used it and dies before he even uses that mech. I mean, probably wouldn't have made a difference anyway. But still, slight little misplay, could have kept him alive a little bit longer, considering the rest of his team were dead. Not too much you can do. Also notice, looks like Power of Friendship going from Delling Courage. A very powerful pickup on the Vengeful Spirit because you've got the double negative armor synergy with Wave of Terror. KQT. Acting as an immobile wall. Looks like he's going to go for the mech. He does have it flying out to him. It's incredibly farm, Skywrath Mage. Usually going to be your 5 as Gatekeeper on the Rubick. Rubick will always have 4 priority. That's because Blink Dagger on Rubick is such an important deal in terms of being a stealer on spells. Nathan Rav actually gets a fantastic Ravage Epicenter. Unfortunately, Tom supports. KQ deals that. Mech actually stands his ground. Ravage being used, only captured that one Gatekeeper. He doesn't really care if he dies. He might actually be able to return that Ravage, not able to do so. So they throw away Ravage as well as the Epi in exchange for 2. Not the best trade for them, since they could have gone more, but considering they didn't lose anybody, Insurgent, they're more than happy to take that. 3k experience going to their hands just from those 2 kills in the 4 and 5. Goes to show you how far ahead a team Trident are in terms of experience as well as gold for them to get that much value just from the 2 heroes with the lowest net worth theoretically. Jellysickle most likely going to be going for the battlefield. I mean, one of the nice things of Ember in the A3 patch is the fact you do get 1 more drum charge with the drums of endurance, so it does make it much more cost effective as a pickup. Drums used to be only 4 charges, cost a lot less though, so it was more for the stat efficiency. Nowadays it is actually justifiable for its cost. Bernardo just going to kill damage, not even bothering to go for a BKB. He's actually a little bit cocky coming up from him, but considering he's only got 1 death to his name, that was to a creep. I suppose you could afford to be that cocky. The nice thing about this build is you can just, if your positioning is perfect, you can just kill everything. There's nothing they don't really have a response to the Drow Ranger if they're not able to capture it in their first wave of initiation. So Bernardo actually probably outputs more damage than the rest of his team combined. Once he picks up that Daedalus, so we'll be off to a fantastic start. Also helps increase his farming efficiency with those Ancients. Looks like they're actually giving a fair amount of farm priority to Gatekeeper just to make sure he gets his Blink Dagger. He should actually pick it up with that creep, he's got it now. And to Blink on Rubick is going to be the deciding factor just because it lets you steal that Ravage, Blink return it. Also means you can just stealing the Burrow Strike or the Viper Strike alone is going to be worth it for the Rubick pickup to be worthwhile. So the fact that you can potentially steal a Ravage is going to be absolutely massive. Jellysickle actually caught him, actually disjoints the Burrow Strike with that Sleight of Fist. Fantastic reflexes coming up from him. Tower of Friendship himself off. Looks like he actually opted to prioritize Searing Chain, the Sleight of Fist over Searing Chain. So Searing wants to go for the Life Break, not able to get it. He's going to die before he even gets it off. Mystic Flare predominantly misses on Toolbelt, but Toolbelt is able to back himself away. Power of Friendship actually swaps very aggressively, going to be taking the death, with a Burrow Epistrike now coming in from Nathan Rev. It's still on the pieces though. Toolbelt left on his own. Rose doesn't have Ravage available, there's only so much he could do. An Ultra Kill going to Bernardo. So this is the nice thing about going in for that cocky only damage build. If they don't catch you, you can kill everything. If they do catch you, you're obviously screwed. But since you've got that Blink Dagger, you can afford to play a bit greedier. And with that, Trident take 4 for nothing. They should actually even just take tier 3 or apply a little bit of chip damage. They do have Ravage now available, still no Blink Dagger on Rose. Trident is meant to be that critical X factor for your team to win these early to mid engagements, especially considering Insurgent's lineup is so heavily centered around the early game. So the fact that they outright lost it because Trident had such a difficult time, wasn't able to recover, really goes to show you the rotations coming in from Rubick as well as KQT being able to constantly zone him out, kill him in lane, and then shut down his method of recovery. So this is what differentiated teams such as Vici and UB from a lot of European teams, not only the ability to win the early game, but to shut down any method of recovery for teams in the mid game. So by denying them of Ancients, taking out 2 lanes of farm, and then constantly fighting in their jungle, or around their jungle to deprive them any measure for them to try to recover, makes it very difficult for them to find the qualities they need. Power of Friendship, lifted in the air, should be dead. Throws out a magic missile, so from Hell's Heart he stabs at the Gatekeeper, strikes it off. Still that Burrow Strike, and with that you now have an Age Theme model on Bernardo Mon. So Drow Ranger, she's a hero that hits her power peak around the 20-minute mark. Now going to go for a solo kill on Rose, and with 3 hits, finds that kill. Daedalus is now on life for Bernardo Mon. He's actually doing more damage than the rest of his team combined. Toolbelt trying to do a little bit of keep away in the tree line, but while it's happening, the rest of his team being torn apart. Viserion once again gets right click done by Bernardo. Looks like Nathan Rav, they're not going to commit to chase down the Sand King just because he's got Blink, Burrow, and Sandstorm. One of the most mobile and elusive heroes, despite being melee in strength. And with that, Drow Ranger does what Drow does best, knocking down towers by hitting incredibly hard. So she doesn't have any fancy minion summoning. She just hits like an absolute truck, actually not activating her Master Aura. They don't even need it though. Power of Friendship, torn to pieces. Rose now comes in with a fantastic 4-man Ravage. But while that happens, Bernardo to stand his ground, he still has the Aegis. Doesn't even really care if he dies. They're not focusing him. They're going for Jellysickle, just zips out. And GG's been called. Looks like game 1 going through the hands of Trident Esports. They lose 1 set of objectives. Probably going to be losing multiple sets of racks with this. So 22 minutes in, Trident with an absolute blitzkrieg, storming them, decisively winning the early game and preventing Rose from ever being a relevant factor. Tidehunter, he is the single most powerful offlane hero in the current meta because he has the ability to recover. The fact that they were able to not only shut him down to begin with, but prevent him from recovering, really goes to show some high-level decision-making coming in from KQT and Gatekeeper. So that looks like as far as game 1 is concerned, we're going to be taking a quick break, and we should be right back for game number 2. Stay tuned.